All right, my secondary math 2 class, we are going to be continuing to practice solving equations by factoring, and we will also be introducing what's called the quadratic formula today, okay? So let's go ahead and look at numbers 1 through 4. Okay, so we are solving these quadratics by factoring, which basically means we're going to ignore that equals 0 for now. Let's just look at the last number, right? So we need to find two numbers that multiply to -8, but are going to add to -7. Okay, so we know that in order to multiply to get a negative, one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So maybe 1 times -8. Okay, well, let's add them together. 1 minus 8 is going to give me -7. Wow, that was lucky. We got it on our first try. So we found our two numbers. That means we can write our parentheses. Our variable is k, so k plus 1 for +1 and k minus 8 for -8. Okay, we need to bring down our equals 0 because now we need to go ahead and take each piece and solve it. Okay, so I'm going to take my first piece, which is k plus 1. I'm going to set it equal to 0 so I can solve it. Okay, the only thing I need to do to get k by itself is get rid of this plus 1. What is the opposite of plus 1? It's going to be -1. So my first answer is k equals 0 minus 1 is -1. Okay, now I need to take my second piece, set it equal to 0, k minus 8 equals 0. Only thing I got to do here is get rid of this -8, which is going to be to add 8. So my second answer is k equals +8. Okay, remember when you're solving quadratics, you're always going to get two answers. Okay, when we're solving by factoring, we can basically say, okay, what's the opposite of +1? -1. What's the opposite of -8? +8. Okay, let's look at number 2. So we got to look at our last number first. It's going to be -56. So I need two numbers that are going to multiply to give me a -56, but add to give me a -1. Remember, that's a -1 there. Okay, well, I know that 1 times 56 is probably not going to give me 1. Maybe, let's see, 56, can 4 go into 56? 56 divided by 4. Okay, maybe 4, -14, that's going to give me -12, so that's definitely not it. Okay, what about 56 and 7? Okay, maybe 7 times -8. Okay, remember 1 always has to be positive, 1 is negative to give us that negative. 7 minus 8 is -1. Oh, yay, we got it. Okay, so we found our two numbers, which means it's x plus 7 for +7, x minus 8 for -8, and we bring down our 0, so we can set them equal to that 0 and solve. Okay, so I'm going to take my first piece, which is x plus 7, set it equal to 0 so I can solve. The opposite of +7 is -7. So my first answer is -7. Okay, there's my first answer. I always need 2 when solving quadratics, so now I'm going to take my second piece, x minus 8 equals 0. Opposite of -8 is +8. So my second answer is x equals 8. Two answers. Okay, remember, you can always say the opposite of +7 is -7. Opposite of -7 is, -8 is +8. And there we go. Okay, let's look at number 3. Okay, so remember, there's this really important note that we always write, and it is, I'll write it in this color. Okay, so let's write it again. must equal 0 to solve. Okay, look at this number 3. Do you see an equals 0? No, there's an equals -5. Okay, so we actually need to move that -5 to the same side where our p squared is in order to make it equal 0. So what is the opposite of -5? How are we going to move it? We're going to add 5. Okay, that moves it over to this side, so we can go ahead and rewrite it. P squared minus 6p that was already over there. Now it's a plus 5 equals 0. Okay, now we can go ahead and solve it. Okay, so I need two numbers that are going to multiply to 5, but add to -6. Okay, well maybe let's try 5 times 1, right? 5 plus 1 is going to give me +6. We're not looking for a +6, we're looking for a -6. Okay, well remember, a negative times a negative also gives me a positive. Okay, now I have -5 minus 1 more. There's my -6. Okay, so we found our two numbers. We found our factors. So in this one, it's p minus 5 times p minus 1. And we bring down our equals 0, so we can set each piece equal to 0 and solve. Okay, so let's take our first piece, which is p minus 5. P minus 5 equals 0. Opposite of -5 is +5. So my first answer is p equals 5. Okay, let's take our second piece. P minus 1 equals 0. Opposite of -1 is +1. So p equals 1. Okay, two answers. Remember, we could have just said the opposite of -5 is +5. Opposite of -1, +1. And there we go. Okay, let's look at number 4. Okay, so we definitely don't see an equals 0, but we need to move both of these guys over to the same side as our p squared. Okay, so what is the opposite of -p? It's going to be to add p. Okay, that's how we move it over there. What's the opposite of plus 12? I almost just said it. -12, and that's how we're going to move it over to that side. Okay, so now we can rewrite it. P squared, that was already over there. Plus p was how we moved it. -12 was how we moved it, and now it equals 0. Okay, so now we can go ahead and solve it. Okay, so I need two numbers that are going to multiply to -12, but add to +1, right? Okay, so maybe these two numbers, we need one positive, one negative. Okay, 3 minus 4 is going to give me -1. Ooh, we're close. Okay, well, let's switch that. Let's do 4 times -3. And that'll give me my +1. Okay, so we found our two numbers, our two factors. Okay, so we have p plus 4 times p minus 3 equals 0. Okay, so now we can take each piece and solve. So I have a p plus 4 equals 0. Okay, the opposite of plus 4 is -4 or -4, meaning my first answer is a -4. Okay, and now my second piece, p minus 3 equals 0. The opposite of -3 is +3. So p equals 3. Okay, remember, whenever you're solving quadratics, you're always going to get two answers. Okay, so that was what we've been practicing by solving quadratics, getting the answers by factoring. This is all factoring that we've been doing. So now I am going to introduce you guys to a method of solving quadratics that will always work, okay? Guess what? Factoring is not always gonna work. It's not gonna end up like these super pretty answers all the time. So I'm gonna teach you a new way that is always going to work whenever you wanna solve a quadratic, okay? So number 5, it's asking us to copy down the quadratic formula. Okay, so our quadratic formula is this. X is equal, okay, so copy this formula down. It's super important. Negative b plus or minus the square root, okay, a big square root sign because there's a lot that goes under this, of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. Okay, now here's what I'm going to do. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to look on my computer because when I was taught the quadratic formula in high school, there is actually a song that goes with it that you will not be able to get out of your head. Okay, so I'm actually going to play you this song. I'm going to turn up my volume so you guys can hear it. And here we go.
The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Okay, we're going to play it again. Here we go.
The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Okay, is it stuck in your head yet? Let's see. Let's do one more time.
The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Okay, I'm assuming that that is now annoyingly in your head. You have it memorized. I still remember when my math teacher taught me that, and I still somewhat sing it when I am writing out the quadratic formula. So, the quadratic formula, you'll notice right here, you see a lot of A's, B's, and C's, right? B, B, A, C, A, right? Okay, well let's talk about why you see those. Okay, so looking down at 6 through 8. Okay, these are quadratic equations that are written in standard form. Okay, I want you to write this note on your paper. All of these, 6, 7, and 8, are quadratic equations written in standard form. Okay, well, when it's in standard form, I'm actually going to put it up here. Okay, so standard form of a quadratic equation is written like this. Okay, a x squared plus b x plus c. Okay, and sometimes it'll have that equal 0. Right now it does. Okay, so this right here is in standard form. Right there. Okay, so standard form tells us what numbers are A's, B's, and C's. Our A's are always the coefficients in front of your variables that are squared. The B's are the coefficients that are just in front of the one variable. And the C's are the constants, the numbers that just stand by themselves, have no variables attached. Okay, so knowing this in standard form, let's go ahead and let's label 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and label my A, B, and my C for 6, 7, and 8. Okay, well I know my A is always in front of the variable that's squared. Okay, so I know that too. That's my A. Okay, my coefficient that is right in front of just the one variable is my B. Okay, and my C is the constant. Okay, so now I want us to actually write out what those coefficients or constants are. Okay, so what is my a equal to? What's right in front of the n squared? 2. Okay, what's my b equal to? -4. And what is my c equal to? -16. Okay, I just want you to do that for now. Okay, so let's look at 7. So my a is the number right in front of my x squared. My b is the number right in front of the x. And my c is the constant, the number that has no variables attached. So let's figure out what these are. A, b, and c. Okay, so what is my a? What is the number that is right in front of this x squared? Okay, careful, it's not x squared. What is the number that's right in front of it? It's the creepy invisible number in math. It's a 1. Okay, what is my b then? What is also the creepy invisible number? It's also 1. And what is my c? -12. Okay, you must include their signs. +1, +1, and -12. Okay, well, let's look at number 8. Okay, my a is always right in front of the one that's variable squared. My b is in front of just a single variable. And my c is the constant, the number with no variables. Okay, so what is my a? What is the number right in front of m squared? 2. What is my b? 5. And what is my c? It's going to be 2. Okay, well, knowing all of these things, now we know, given these quadratic equations, we know what a, b, and c are on all of these guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy down the quadratic formula, but instead of b's, a's, c's, we're going to just put blank spaces. Okay, so let's look at number 6. Okay, so we're always start our quadratic formula. X is equal to -b, but instead of a b, put a blank space, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, sorry, that's kind of bleeding in, all over 2 times a. Okay, so we just got rid of the a's, the b's, and the c's, and instead we put blank spaces. Okay, no more letters over here, just numbers. Okay, so my first space is the b. What is my b? -4. Okay, again, b squared, -4. 4 times a times c, so what is my a? Goes right here, 2. And what is my c? -16. Okay, all over 2 times a, so what is my a? 2. And that's all I want you to do with these today. Okay, so let's do it again on number 7. Okay, so let's copy down our quadratic formula. X is equal to -b, instead it's a space, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. Okay, so let's fill in these blanks. First one, x is equal to -b, so what's my b? 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, b is 1, minus 4ac, guys, you're actually hearing me sing right now, it's crazy. 4ac, so what's my a? Goes in this first spot, 1, and what's my c? -12, all over 2a, so my a again is 1. And that's it. I just want us to practice plugging in the numbers that we know. That's it. We're not even going to solve it today. Okay, so let's do it again on 8. Okay, so we know our quadratic formula. X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root. I'm trying to get it stuck in your head. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, now let's fill in these blanks. X is equal to -b, b is 5, plus or minus the square root of b squared, B again, 5, minus 4AC. A is 2, and C is 2, all over 2A. A is 2. Okay, that's it, you guys. I just wanted us to practice filling in the quadratic formula. We can identify A's, B's, and C's, and now we can plug it into the formula. Next time, we will work on solving it. Okay, bye.